Welcome in to this week's edition of the USL Weekend Preview. My name is Nicholas Murray and I'm very pleased to be joined by USL Professional League Senior Director Chris Economides. Chris, we've got a lot of interesting action in USL Pro coming up this weekend, starting off on Friday night with the Charlotte Eagles hosting the Rochester Rhinos. Rochester coming in off a tough road trip, Charlotte coming in off a very nice 2-0 win against Antigua. What do you think Friday's matchup will tell us about both teams?
Well, I think Charlotte did very well in the opening game against Antigua. They've got 16 new faces. So head coach Mark Steffens is trying to get his squad to gel, and they gelled very well in the opening game. From the opposite perspective, Rochester had a road trip that they would probably soon want to forget, with a couple of back-to-back losses to Tampa, VSI Tampa, and then Orlando City. I think you'll see a whole different Rochester squad. They've had a whole week now sort of gather their senses. I'm sure the head coach, Jesse Myers, has done a great job up there to get his team ready for this weekend. So I think you'll see a little bit different Rochester team, but it should be a very interesting game.
Interesting matchup to watch for this one. In the centre of midfield, you have Rochester's experience with Tyler Rosenlund, who's been a very good player over the last few seasons. Young kid coming in for Charlotte, who was a Philadelphia Union draft pick, Stephen Okai. He was all-conference in the PDL for a couple of seasons. So whoever wins that matchup in the centre of midfield probably will have a leg up as far as getting a result tonight. Now, moving on to Saturday, Antigua, who lost to Charlotte last week, makes the trip down to face Charleston on Saturday night in the Battery's home opener. Now, both of these teams lost last week, Battery losing to Richmond. What are you expecting to see out of the Battery and out of the Barracudas?
The consummate road warriors, Antigua FC Barracuda. Obviously, the first match in Charlotte didn't go as well as they had hoped. They've had a full week, similar to Rochester now, to sort of prepare for this next two-game stretch, opening up in always very tough venues in Wilmington tonight, and then obviously at Blackbaud Stadium tomorrow night. It should be an interesting match. Charleston, obviously licking its wounds from a tough 4-1 defeat at the hands of the Richmond Kickers. Should be interesting how both teams come out.
Interesting subplot to this one for me. Antigua's Quinton Griffith. First game against his former teammates. He's now with the Battery. He's been playing well for them in pre-season. What sort of treatment does he get from his former teammates and national team teammates as well?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think they're going to want to sort of give him a rude welcome, or welcome themselves rudely to Mr. Griffith.
Sunday night, Los Angeles Blues making their first East Coast road trip this weekend. They played tonight against Orlando, but their game Sunday against VSI Tampa Bay FC at Plant City Stadium should be a very interesting one. VSI, the only team to beat the Blues so far this season, and obviously they're coming off a very nice win against Rochester last week.
Very interesting weekend from a Blues perspective. They've been mostly West Coast, LA, and Phoenix-centric so far this season. This is their first foray to the East. All the travel and the demands of travel, everything else. A couple of real tough games for them from our perspective. No pun intended, going into the Lions' Den this evening, followed up by a very hot VSI Tampa Bay team. We'll see how they fare.
Well, obviously we can join us for all of the action on USL Nation throughout the weekend. We hope you'll join us there. You can also follow live updates on Twitter at USL Pro and also on Facebook and Google+. We hope you enjoy all the action and we hope to see you again this time next week.